President Trump is traveling this weekend. He's making a state visit to Japan. I don't like it when he leaves the country. It makes me nervous. It's like being at your wedding and watching your drunken uncle hit on your friends. During the trip, he will spend time with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and he will become the first foreign leader to meet the new emperor of Japan, Naruhito. They're going to go see the Pokemon movie together, so that should be... The real show is going to be on Sunday. And Sunday in Japan, Donald and Melania are invited to sit ringside at the National Sumo Wrestling Finals, which is going to be... He's already said, I'm not sitting on the floor like everyone else, but he's bringing, for the winner, what he is calling the Trump Cup to present to the winner. They released a photo of the Trump Cup, and as you can see, it's quite... It's beautiful. It's the only trophy in sports that comes with a side of mashed potatoes. So. Remember that time when President Bush puked on the Japanese Prime Minister? That's about to become the second most embarrassing thing a president has ever done in Japan. Trump's on the warpath. He is lashing out once again at his former Secretary of State. The Washington Post reported that Rex Tillerson was testifying in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and he said Vladimir Putin got the better of Trump because he out-prepared him for their meeting in 2017. The way to out-prepare Donald Trump is by preparing anything at all. It's 1 minute of reading. Trump did not like this. He wrote, Rex Tillerson, a man who is dumb as a rock. That's his quote, by the way, not... And totally ill-prepared and ill-equipped to be Secretary of State, made up a story. He got fired. That I was out-prepared by Vladimir Putin at a meeting in Hamburg. I don't think Putin would agree. Look how the U.S. is doing. He really doesn't... He doesn't have a sense of anything. Does he know that he hired Rex Tillerson? And does he know we have a record of his tweets? They don't just disappear like Snapchat or something. Does he not remember writing congratulations to Rex Tillerson on being sworn in as our new Secretary of State? He will be a star. Now, the guy who will be the star is as dumb as a rock. He's as dumb as a rock star is what he is now. Trump's also mad at Nancy Pelosi right now. They had a meeting yesterday to discuss infrastructure spending, but Trump stormed out after 3 minutes. He marched outside. He told reporters, I won't work with Democrats until they end their investigations of me. Nancy Pelosi then accused the president of having a temper tantrum in the meeting, which resulted in yet another tweet. Nancy Pelosi said, President Trump had a temper tantrum for us all to see. This is not true. I was purposely very polite and calm, much as I was minutes later with the press in the Rose Garden. Can be easily proven. It's all such a lie. Well, just for the record, he denies having a temper tantrum by having a temper tantrum. And then, because that wasn't enough, he gets something in his head. He has this event where he's going to announce subsidies to a bunch of farmers and ranchers. And so these farmers and ranchers are in the room expecting to hear about subsidies, and instead they hear this.
She said I walked into the room right next door yesterday and walked in and started screaming and yelling. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. I walked out. I was so calm. You all saw me minutes later. I was at a news conference. I was extremely calm. Before I walked in, I said, I'm going to be very calm. So I was extremely calm, very much like I am right now. They come out and say, oh, he was yelling, he was screaming. Kellyanne, what was my temperament yesterday in the room?
Very calm.
You were in that room yesterday? What was my attitude when I walked in? Did I ever scream?
No, you were very calm and you were very direct.
He said he was stomping and he was this and that. And, Larry, you were there. What was my attitude yesterday at the meeting?
Mercy's right. Kellyanne's right. You were very calm.
Just out of curiosity, you were there. What was my tone yesterday at the meeting?
Very calm. I've seen both, and this is definitely not...
Been very consistent. I'm an extremely stable genius. Okay.
He's an extremely stable genius. Why can't people understand that? He's not a maniac. Ask his 10 terrified underlings. Nancy Pelosi this morning decided to give him a little poke in his stable genius at her weekly press conference.
Again, I pray for the President of the United States. I wish that his family or his administration or his staff would have an intervention.
This is exactly what would have happened if we had a President Charlie Sheen. This is it. This must be getting under his thin orange skin because Trump even released his spokesmonsters today to address this outrageous insinuation that he is anything other than rational, reasoned, and as calm as the Caribbean Sea.
So the president said, let's work on infrastructure. And then he left very calmly. And I want to emphasize that because he never raised his voice a single time. He was very polite.
I want to do
he can't have two
infrastructure. I
tracks.
want to get these things
can't
done. But you guys have to
say
make
that
a
I'm engaged
decision
in a
on whether
cover-up.
or
He
not
can't want to
you want
impeach
to
and
work with
investigate.
us.
Beware the huckabeast. It is a terrifying creature. Only Dr. Pimple Popper can save us from it. This is a small, but I think delightful detail in this Trump versus Pelosi feud. After he left their meeting yesterday, he went out in the Rose Garden. He's holding some handwritten notes. And the Washington Post got a photo of the notes. If you look closely, you can see he wrote, "Dems have no accomplishments." There you go. Which is technically true. No one does because there are no such thing as accomplishments. But it is amazing the kinds of things that come out of your head when your system runs on nothing but Adderall and fried chicken. It really is. And speaking of writing, this is exciting. Donald Trump Jr. is writing a book. He says the book will cover a number of topics, including his father's accomplishments in the White House, lies from the liberal media, and tips for greasing your hair with a mixture of varnish and lard. TJ has not yet announced the title, but I have a few ideas if he's interested. For instance, Are You There, Dad? It's Me, the Dumb One. Or maybe he could call it Moby Dick, or perhaps instructional how to glue on a fake beard. And of course, with sibling rivalries being what they are, his brother Eric is now writing a book, too. He's writing a children's book called Eric Shot an Elphalent. If you like that video, click subscribe, and we'll be together until one of us dies.